welcome back to Sincerely Latina podcast, a safe space created for Latinas healing and growth. This podcast focuses on intensity, celebrating ourselves, healing from past traumas, breaking generational curses, cultural expectations, relationships, friendships, family, career changes, self-development, and so much more related to the Latino community. I am your host, Meli. Hola, amiguis. It's Sincerely Latinas podcast. Welcome back to another episode. I'm super excited for this week's episode. Also, happy Sunday. Feliz Domingo. Ya es el fin de semana. The weekend is finally, it's over. It's over now. And it went by so fast. I can't believe it. I feel like the days are just flying by. Like I can't catch a break. I hope you guys are having a great weekend. I hope you guys are going to have a wonderful week if you're listening to this throughout the week, which pretty much you will be because I will be posting it throughout the week, like on Tuesday. So yeah, today was a pretty chill day. Actually, this whole weekend, I've just been catching up with some friends. So I hung out with one of my closest friends, Angela, on Friday. We went to our usual spot. And oh my God, it's so good. The food is good. The drinks are good. A little too loud, but it's okay. But I love that spot. We would go there all the time. Yesterday, I also catched up with another good friend. We went to the beach and girl talk, like a lot of catching up. I told her everything that has happened this past month. Yeah, and then I hung out with another friend today. We went for coffee and that's it. Coffee and oh no, we went to like some little shops. It was like Mexican Latina owned shops and it was so cute. I bought a few stickers. I bought a few like Mexican or Latina stickers. And then what else did I get? I got this little bookmark of Bad Bunny, and because I like reading books and it was a fun, productive day, and now I'm here doing the podcast. I was pretty tired when I got back, but something in me was telling me I feel inspired to talk about this topic on my podcast. Let me do it right now since nobody's home and I pretty much have the ideas in my mind right now. Let me write it down. Let me get this done because then later on I'm gonna forget about it or I'm not gonna be as inspired as I am right now. So I kind of just like forced myself to get up and just to record this podcast. Yeah. For today's episode, I do want to talk about breaking cycles. So this past week, I have been reflecting a lot on my behaviors, on some patterns that I tend to do over and over and over again, like a cycle. And a lot of those patterns are kind of unhealthy, in my opinion. I'm not saying I'm a toxica, but you know, we all have like our flaws. No one's perfect. I'm not perfect, and I've said that before. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. I have my flaws. I have my unhealthy patterns or traits or behaviors that I've adapted from seeing it growing up at home. So I tend to overthink a lot. That's something that I've noticed my whole entire life. I am an overthinker. and I don't like it. I hate it. I feel like overthinking has definitely affected ways that I would make decisions in life, like really important decisions, and like having relationships or friendships with people, and just it affects a lot on my mental health. Mostly it affects how I see myself, how I show myself to people, and how I go day by day. And it sucks. I really don't like that I am an overthinker, but I can't help it. Another thing is that I don't know how to communicate. I feel like I struggle on saying exactly what it is that I want and being very like clear and transparent when just communicating thoroughly. Yeah, I've never really learned that growing up. So that is something that definitely affects me in my romantic dating relationships. I don't know if it really affects my friendships or other like relationships or family dynamics. But I know for a fact it definitely affects me when it comes to dating. There's also this fear that I have of being rejected. So that's something that's huge for me. That's a really big thing that I struggle with a lot, and that's where I tend to overthink. I'm overthinking like, oh my god, what if they say no? What if they reject me? I'm gonna feel this and that. And then I'm just not clear about my feelings. I don't communicate officially on how I think or how I feel. So that really it puts me in a really tough situation. But really, that fear of rejection, it's really just God or the universe, or it's redirection. Rejection is just a form of being redirected, is what I like to say. And that's completely true. That's just God protecting me from what isn't meant for me. So obviously, if it's meant for me, it would most definitely come my way, you know? So when I reflect back and I think about these behaviors or these patterns that I have, I also think like the root of it. Like, why am I this way? Where did this come from? And it always goes back to like how I grow up, like how my family, how I was raised. I saw that within my own parents. Yeah, that's just how I am because I saw that growing up, and that's literally all I know. I learned that at a very early age. And you know, when you're a kid, kids are always watching. Kids are always watching, kids are always learning and adapting everything. They're always they're basically what they see, what they grow up with. They're most likely going to become that. I pretty much grew up being picked on by my own family, and I get that because everybody would say something about me, and it would always have to be something so negative, so bad. And that would constantly make me feel like I was rejected. So, of course, I'm going to be scared that like people outside of my family are going to reject me and see me the way that my own family saw me. And of course, I'm going to be like overthinking it, like, oh my God, maybe they're going to think this way about me because that's literally what I was like, that's literally what I experienced since day one. So, of course, it makes sense. I learned that a lot in therapy. I realized why I am the way that I am. And therapy really is good. It helps you a lot. And I highly recommend that everybody takes therapy. So now I'm at the place in my life where I have to unlearn all of these traits. I have to break this cycle that I have with how I overthink, or how I am just scared of rejection. Or so how can I undo all of this? How can I unlearn what I grew up adapting from, if that makes sense? And it is hard. The unlearning process is super hard. You have to unlearn everything on your own, and with little to no support. I have to unlearn everything on my own. And that's just, it's not impossible, but it can be tough. Cycles are generational traumas. Cycles are part of generational curses. I consider myself a cycle breaker. I am breaking these unhealthy cycles, behavior or thinking patterns of myself, so that way I can heal from all those generational traumas, all those generational curses, all those unhealthy cycles, and I can just be the best version of myself. Shout out to us cycle breakers. It's not easy, especially for first gen Latinas. It's really not easy. So shout out to us for being the first in the family to take action to break those cycles for yourself, for your family, for your future kids, and to inspire others as well. So, us cycle breakers, the way that our cycle forms, it always starts from a parent. It always starts from growing up. It starts from a young age. And it's always because of how we were raised. It always comes back to that. So usually we're raised by either mom and dad or both. And one or both of the parents would have mental health issues. And usually their issues also would come from their mom and dad, how they were raised. So they adapted that, they learned that from their own parents. And then, of course, they're going to. It's so common that, like, Latinas or Latinos, like, back in the day, like, the older generation, they just don't believe in mental health. They don't believe in, like, anxiety. And so they just don't think that they have mental health issues, and they think that their behavior is completely normal and okay when it's really not. Because they either tend to make us feel like we can't rely on them for comfort. So we will learn to stay out of their way, and we would try to comfort ourselves. Then when we're parents, if we haven't, like, healed from those patterns, if we haven't broken those cycles, then we would still have those unhealthy, toxic behaviors that our parents had. And most likely we would show that to our own kids, and we wouldn't give them the intimacy or, like, the emotional support that our kids need. And then our kids will grow up the way that we grew up, and then therefore they're going to do that with their kids, and then it repeats itself over and over again. So the cycle continues. So when wanting to break those cycles, there are, like, a few phases that we go through when we discover, like, that toxic, unhealthy, like, cycle that we have. And it usually starts off with the first phase where we discover it. We discovered our unhealthy or toxic behaviors or patterns, and that it's constantly repeating in our lives. Sometimes because we're just so used to those cycles, to those patterns, we then attract, or we go for, like, a partner who's also, like, emotionally unavailable, or someone who's just gonna be avoidant to you because you're just used to that from your own family, from your own parents. But then after that, once we discovered that, hey, like this is something that I notice about myself and I don't like it, like I wanna stop this. We heal from that. So in this phase, you take the time to get to know the root of the issue. Okay, where did this come from? Okay, I think I got this from when I was at a really young age at home. That's usually the that's usually what happens. And then you ask yourself, what part of me is attracted to an emotionally unavailable person? And how can I heal that part of me to break this cycle so I don't have to be emotionally unavailable myself or go for people who are emotionally unavailable, and so I can just live happier. And then we grow from that. So as you heal, you start to change. You start to set boundaries. You have new goals and you have new ways of just being your authentic, real self. And I feel like that's super exciting, but it's also really scary because it's the unknown and we just don't know how to fully heal from something so traumatizing that we have grown up with. But I feel like it's worth it. The first time you watch something happen in your family or anywhere and you think to yourself, oh my God, I'm not going to do that now or not ever. And the moment you stick to that, that's when you become a cycle breaker. And you know what I've noticed is that a lot of the times, us cycle breakers or us generational curse breakers or trauma healers or trauma breakers, we are often the black sheep of like the family, or I was about to say the black sheep de la familia, because we tend to focus more on stopping and breaking and unlearning and undoing toxic patterns. And no one else would do that. No one else would take that first step to stop some sort of like toxic pattern or behavior or to stop that generational curse. And it's just us. We're the ones who started. We're the ones who take that risk. We're the ones that like step in there and we're like, "Hey, I don't want to do this anymore. This is not how I want to live my life." And it can get really lonely. Trust me, I feel really alone in this family. But we we're not alone. I know that there is so many other people who are very similar to what I'm to what I'm going through. I'm sorry. And I know that it is worth it. So we're out here. So we're out here literally being, oh, I just remembered this. We're literally being the change that we want to see in the world. I don't know if that sounds too cheesy, but you know that quote, that really famous quote, be the change that you want to see in the world. We cycle breakers, generational curse breakers, we're literally the change that we want to see in our family, in our home, our in this world. So I shared a lot. I want to end in a good note. So here's a really good quote that I found, and I just feel like it's relevant to what we're talking about here. So the quote is, your personality may not reflect your true, authentic, and highest self, but a version of you that is operating through deep layers of trauma. So I really hope all us cycle breakers unite and understand that you're not alone. I know it can feel lonely, but I'm not alone. You're not alone. That's why I built this community. That's why I am trying to bring people together. I am bringing people together. And it's great to see all of you guys be so supportive to me. I've gotten so many amazing like sweet messages from all you ladies, and I really appreciate you all. And I don't want to I don't want to overthink. I don't want to be scared. And like unlearning something that has been stuck with you for your whole entire life it's a hard process. It's an ongoing long process, but it is worth it. And that's healing. That's just healing overall. So I really hope all of you can heal from anything that you had gone through or that you're currently going through. Understand that you have your amiguis here, your amigas. And yeah, so I'm just gonna end this episode right here. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening a mi podcast. Gracias, gracias, gracias. Mucho, mucho, mucho. I love you girls so much. And I will catch you guys up on the next episode. Remember to follow me on Instagram and what else? TikTok, Sincerely Latina, and give me a review. Let me know what you think of this podcast. And yeah, I'll see you guys, or I'll catch you guys up on the next one. Bye bye.